Rapid City, South Dakota. He honey washte. Chante washte iuha na pechiu zapi. Na lila chante washte wachiankapi. Good morning. With a good heart, I extend a handshake to each and every one of you. Lakota, I'm Oglala Lakota from the Ocheti Shakoi, which everybody knows as the Sioux Nation. We don't use Sioux anymore. We're Ocheti Shakoi, the 7 Console Fires in South Dakota. So I'm Oglala Lakota from the Pine Ridge Reservation, and that's where I was born and grew up. And my story began when when I was 15. See, I thought I knew it all, right? Teenager, you know, and I was in love. And lo and behold, I got pregnant, you know, 15 years old. Today, I look at the 15-year-old girls and think, man, you know, I was pregnant when I was their age. And it's so I really talk to the young ladies today, don't do what I did. I taught my daughters, my granddaughters, don't make the same mistake I did. So I jumped from the boiling pot into the fire. I was at home. I was abused by my stepdad, physically abused, and I really didn't like that. So when my ex-husband gave me loving attention, I fell hook, line, and sinker. And I got pregnant at 15. I had my first born when I was 15, and the next day I turned 16. And my husband at the time, or we were forced to get married, so we got married, and the issue with our marriage was infidelity. I had our second child when I was 17. So here I was at the age of 17, but my husband provided. And so I thought everything was fine, but all of a sudden, wounded knee occupation happened in 73. And he had a nervous breakdown. He had a nervous breakdown, so people were encouraging him, take a drink, because he didn't drink. But they told him, take a drink, you know, it'll calm you down. Well, sure calmed him down, you know, he didn't stop at one, you know. So for a beginner, he really fell hard. And the abuse, physical abuse, what I know today was rape, mental abuse, it was all there. And and I took it all. You know, I have a niece today who's went through. But back then, there was no help for us. There was no help. There was no domestic violence programs, none of this. And so I finally got the courage to stand up for myself, and I started fighting back when he would pound on me. I started fighting back, and that surprised him. But I had enough of that and his infidelity. And so I was so heartbroken. I mean, the pain is unbelievable. And to drown that out, I started medicating with alcohol, because that's all the fun things we did on the res was party. Go to the state border towns, get our liquor, come back, and party. That was all there was to do. So it was the norm, as we all figured out. Well, I mean, I think I just hated men in general. You know, I thought of all of them as this guy that did this to me. They're all alike. And so I never got close to anybody. But when we partied, there might be somebody. And then, but hold on. But, you know, when they start getting intimate, I like you, I love you, it was like, whoa, you know, the walls went up, you know. And one too many times this happened, and pretty soon they called me the woman with a heart of ice. And basically it was true, because, you know, they're all like my ex, you know. They all cheat on their wives. They all abuse, you know. So anyway, I just had fun partying. And then I got a job. I was 18, and that was right after the Wounded Knee occupation. And they interviewed me for the post office job there, you know. I was like, why did they single me out? You know, this inspector kept coming to my house, and finally to shut him off, I just filled out the application, thought nothing was going to happen. Well, I got the job, you know. So I told my ex-husband, I don't need you. Get out of my life. I can support myself and the kids. And that's the way it's been since, you know. I partied hard, but I still hung on to my job. I knew I had to support my kids, so I would show up every day. There was days I shouldn't have been there, you know, but I made it. And then it was so violent in Wounded Knee. I think it was a godsend that I transferred to Rapid City. I was 24 years old then. So I transferred to the big post office in Rapid City, and there was culture shock waiting for me. All of a sudden, I'm in the work environment where probably 98% were non-natives, you know. You know, it just, I don't know. I was never around that many non-natives, you know, before. That took a while, but you know what? Some of those old guys there became my best friends. I was discriminated against. I didn't see it, but they did, and they fought for me. So anyway, I kept on partying, hung on to my job, because I knew I had to support my kids. Years later, my ex-husband goes, you know, he was talking about his brother's ex-wife and said, at least you're not like so-and-so. She filed child support, and now he's got all this money that he owes. And so I said, what? I said, I should have filed child support on you. Talk about it. Anyway. So, anyway, some of my best buddies at work were, I got in trouble at work. I didn't show up a day or two sometimes. It's called AWOL, and, but I made it through. And one time a friend of mine told me, he goes, Bev, you want to come with me to a meeting tonight? So I went with him. And I said, what kind of meeting is this? He goes, it's an AA meeting. So I said, what's AA? And he said, Alcoholics Anonymous. So I said, whoa, I'm not an alcoholic, And so he said, no, I'm not saying you are, just come in, So I walked in, and I was like, whoa, what are these guys doing here? It was some people from work, Whoa, is this a reunion here, So anyway, November of '84, I quit partying. But it was a long time. I was living with my sister most of the time, and boy, she wanted to party all the time. And the last position I had there before I went to another post office was I was a letter carrier. And that's a really physical job. So I'd come home tired, but here's my sister wanting to party, right? So we would argue, and then I'd give in. We would go and drink, and then because I was holding this grudge against her for talking me into it, I could have said no, right? So her and I would fight because I had this anger towards her. She made me drink, So anyway, I looked around at work, and some of these guys had families, nice homes, Here I was in a beat up we called it Old Betsy. If it got me to work and to the liquor stores, I was good, And I thought, these guys have nice cars. And then I thought, what am I doing? I don't want this. And so I just, hung it up. But then I moved out of my sister's place. And I knew that life wasn't for me. Today I have a daughter who should be here, She's been drinking hard all her life, well, ever since she turned 16. She, she would, sometimes I would tell her, why can't you quit like I did? And she goes, Mom, I'm not strong like you. So I said, no, it's not being strong. It's just you have priorities. Because I raised her kids. I voluntarily took in her kids and watched them because she couldn't. I didn't want DSS to get a hold of them and place them someplace else. And as Native people, we try to take care of our own, And so with no kids, that gave her the power to go and drink some more, And I would get angry. But from time to time and she went to treatment how many times, So she knows, I know how to get sober. I know this, I know that. okay. But pretty soon I would tell her, how come you keep drinking? Why do you keep drinking? And she goes, Mom, I'm scared of the hangover. I'm scared of the shakes. I'm scared of, I never got that far. I couldn't understand what she was talking about. So I had to get with my sponsor. My sponsor is both in AA and Alanon. So lo and behold, she goes, Bev, come to this meeting with me. It was Alanon. Boy, I could just identify with what was being said at these meetings. And so my sponsor and I would talk, and she really helped me get through dealing with my daughter. And today, as a matter of fact, a couple mornings ago, she calls me 4 in the morning. And this happens all the time, Mom, they kicked me out. Oh, I'm way over here. What am I supposed to do, They don't understand that, And so I tell her, you chose this life. I try keeping you at the house, and she stays sober 2-3 weeks, and she is fantastic, She's loving with her kids who are adults now, the grandkids. I tell her, you've got to straighten up if you want to see your grandkids grow up, because she's had some near misses, I never drank like her. That's why I could not understand what she was going through. And thank God for my sponsor and for Alanon, I was able to understand this, Sometimes they say I'm really hard, but I've been a single parent all my life. I raised my kids on my own. When I quit drinking back in 84, 85, I met my youngest daughter's dad. At that time, my children were like 14, 15 years old. And I was like, I think I was ready to adopt a niece of mine because I wanted a little child, something to, just help me get through. And here I met this guy, and what happens? I get pregnant, And so Creator answered my prayer, but his comeback to me was, you're trying to trap me. So I said, hey, you're just a donor, I said, I work and I can support myself. I don't need you at all, So he did a complete 180-degree turnaround, and crying around and all this, So I call, we were going to name her Kateri, St. Kateri of the Mohawks. But her dad wanted to name her Katrina, so I always tell her she's my gift from Creator, Today I'm not with her dad, but that's okay, because I have what I wanted, And so she was my little gift. And so I came into Alanon through AA thinking I was alcoholic. I did some behaviors that are questionable. But today my life is, somebody talked I really enjoyed the meetings I was at yesterday. One of them just they talked about from being Hawaii and their ways of not a coin but delays, So back in early 80s, 1980 or 81, I was going to meet my sister-in-law who's from Hawaii. So we met at LA International Airport. She was with a friend. Now, mind you, we should exchange pictures of each other first, right? So here we are in the lobby, and I swear I passed her and this guy about 3-4 times. Finally, it cleared out, and they were standing there. So I said, "Are you Louise? Are you Beverly?" "Yes." And so this guy, he had this of flowers, a lei. And he come up to me and he goes, "Here, I'm gonna lay you." So, whoa! Whoa, you're not gonna lay me, So Louise goes, "No, Bev, that's our, those are flowers. That's our custom." So, okay. How's my experience with lays, Another one was control. We talked about the topic control. Well, I'm from a family of 7 girls, and I'm the oldest. So I learned control real good. Raising my sisters, my mother and stepfather they would drink, and so I would take care of my younger sisters. Well, when I got out of the household and those girls misbehaved, my mom always came to me and said, "Go straighten those girls up." So sometimes I'd slap them around, So they were scared of me, So when Mom would threaten them, "I'm going to tell Beverly on you." That was all it took. But as we got older, when I quit drinking, they were my worst critics. It was like, "Who are you trying to be? You think you're better than us because you're not drinking or partying?" I wanted a different way of life, That wasn't all there was to life, partying. And my daughter, the one who should be here today, so we would party, and I would promise them, "We'll go do this, we'll go do that this weekend," but yet partying took a priority at that time. So Sunday mornings, when I would wake up, she would go, "Mom, let's go to the mall. I need some clothes." And because I felt guilty, we would go, and she would buy up a storm, And that's how she started manipulating me. And when I quit partying, she tried that, and when it wouldn't go her way, boy, she reacted, So I know several years ago when I was working in this place called Kyle on the Pine Ridge Reservation. Let me back up a little bit. So Lakota language was my first language until I went to boarding school. At boarding school, somebody mentioned this. I think it was Austin. Go to boarding school and they whip you like the Dickens if you spoke the language. I quite don't remember how fast or how slow I learned the English language. But by the time I was in second grade, I was speaking English language because I was helping this first grader who came and she just could not grasp the English language. So I helped her. And, oh, the abuse, she went through. And finally, I helped her learn. So I thought, years later, I thought, they were probably that hard on me too, that I just, could not remember it. And that was really hard. And when the news came out about all those children being found in Canada, it took about 2-3 weeks for me to really get over that pain because it just hit so close to home. I think my generation is the last generation that went to boarding school. And so, and I know my brothers, when I talk about brothers, in our culture, and I know it's like this in every tribe too, our cousins are our brothers and sisters. Growing up, my cousins called me sis, and we called them Tiblo or Misu, Today, they're all gone. One of my Tiblos was Pat. He used to chair this conference for a few years back. And when he passed out, he was our oldest at the time. And so that was really hard, really hard. And I know that with anyway, let me get back to the topic of control. So I'm a single parent and a single grandparent, and don't get me wrong, I had relationships. There was this one guy I met, pure alcoholic. I mean, he was a really smart guy. He was a CI for the Pine Ridge Reservation, but he just drank. And I met him because he investigated. Okay, there was this other guy I was involved with. And I wanted to get away from him, but one day, it was a Saturday, and he came to my office, held me up with a gun, and threatened to kill me and all this other stuff. Is like, what did I get into, And so I reported him, and so that was it. That's what broke the camel's back until this guy. And people were telling me, Bev, don't get involved with him. He likes to drink. He's going to make you drink. And I thought, what the heck are these people talking about, And to spite them, I got involved with him, And if anything, it made me grateful that I was not a drunk like him. I just hated alcohol. And his family thought I straightened him out, But I told him, I'm not here to straighten you out, If you want to quit, you can quit. I can help you. But if you want to drink, And that kind of fizzled out because he kept drinking. I just knew I shouldn't have done that. And eventually, the guy did die, And I just prayed a lot for him. And and so here I am. I'm in control of my life, right? I can out anybody I don't want nothing to do with, and take care of my tioshbaye. My tioshbaye is extended family. So being the oldest, my sisters, my brothers would, always call for advice, So I'll tell them, okay, do this, this, and that, if you want to. That's what I did. I did it that way. But I'll share this with you that didn't work, And so some of them took my advice, and I had 2 sisters who could not stop drinking. And I lost them both to this disease. And that is so sad. And so for that reason, I would always get a hold of my sponsor. Why can't they just quit? And they're powerless. Remember this. It's powerless. You're powerless over alcohol. And that's where they're at. And I just could not understand it. So when I would talk to them before they passed away, I would share, why? Why do you guys want to do this to yourselves? You have kids, you have grandkids. And they just said, I'm weak. No, you're a Lakota. You can't be weak like that. But you know what? Alcoholism just took them hook, line, and sinker. And eventually they passed away. And that just made me angrier and angrier towards alcohol. And so last is my daughter, and I struggle with her every week, sometimes on a daily basis. And it's like, today I'm retired. I should be enjoying life. But there I was. I raised 4 grandchildren. And there I made sure they got through high school. 2 of them went on. Today I have a grandson, my only grandson, who last year graduated welding school. And he got a job, and I said, well, and he lives at home, so I said, you don't have a girlfriend? He goes, they're too expensive. So he's got a good welding job, makes good money, and he got himself a couple of toys, and now he's paying bills, at the age of 21. And so he always says, I owe it to you, Graham, but it was just my control, Academics is important for our children today, And so when I hear of some grandparent sharing what their grandkids or their children going on to better themselves, that is such a powerful story, because that's what our children need to do today. So before my grandson graduated, he told his counselors and them, he said, so they asked him, so what's your career? What's your career going to be? So he said, I want to be a welder. He said, I want to make big bucks and take my grandma to Paris. So I remind him of that often. He goes, I'm saving. And then I thought I was done. And here I inherited a little great-grandson. he's my oldest grandson. He'll be 10 years old next month. And I had him since he was a year and a half. So here I am, you know. I have 3 great-grandsons, 7 grandchildren, soon to be 8. My daughter, she's expecting first part of next month, so I'll have 3 grandsons. But for me, I took control of my life. I knew what I wanted, you know. There was a lot of hardship raising grandkids. And I know that I can control relationships. I always remember the pain of what I went through with my ex-husband. You know, I trusted him with my whole being. I never went out on him. You know, because coming from Catholic boarding school, that was instilled in us. Marriage is a sacred thing, and in our culture it is also. And so I took that with all my being, and yet he didn't. So today I still have trust issues. I still have a little bit of trust issues, but I always say I'm so set in life. I have grandkids to raise. You know, being retired, you would think, okay, stay at home, live comfortably ever after, you know, and it's just not that way, you know. All these different things I'm involved in keeps me busy. Before I retired, I went back to college, and I got my bachelor in business degree in studies, and that was in my early 40s. So raising grandkids, zipping 50 miles away to go to school, coming back in the evenings, you know. By the time I was done, I was ready for the nut house, you know. For about a year, I never opened a book and read it, you know. It was just unbelievable. So I tell my kids, my grandkids, go to school young before you start having kids, because that yeah, that's a distraction. Yeah, it's a lot harder, you know. So with that, with my American Indian Studies major, I was asked to teach Lakota language at Black Hills University in Spearfish, South Dakota. So today I do that. I'm a Lakota language instructor there, and that's really opened my eyes. Thank you. And again, if it wasn't for AA and Alanon, I wouldn't have been there, you know. But I knew way back when I wanted a different way of living, and it sure wasn't partying, you know, thinking you're cool out there and all that. So, yeah, you just don't look the same the next morning, you know. So I just pretty much, and that control sometimes goes, you know, by the wayside when something happens. But you know what? Nobody's there that's going to pick me up and say, here's the path for, you know, for the solution. No, I had to go to Alanon, reach out to my sponsor, and pray hard. No, it would take a couple days because I'm angry, you know, things aren't going my way. So I'd walk, and call my sponsor, and then I'm able to pray, you know. pray and know that there's solutions. And so when I go that path, when my kids or grandkids, oh, it's too hard, I can't do that. I look at them and I'm like, are you kidding me? Geez, if you had to be in my shoes back when you're at your age, I'd be a complete failure at this point, But I know that there's always a different way of life. We were just talking, another way is our traditional ways, I, back in 96, before my mother passed away, I started sun dancing, and I had ceremonies and everything for healing for her, and it just didn't turn out that way. Creator still took her. And so the next year, I should have sat that year out, but again, I went and I was just angry at the Creator. I did all this, and that, and you still took my mother. And I had a hard time out there until my friend knew what I was going through, and so she said, talk to our leader and see what she says. So I talked to her, and she said, come on, we're going to all go into sweat after this round. And she said, we're going to pray. We'll help you. And after that, going into the sweat lodge and all these women praying for me, I could just feel that positive energy. I just felt it, and I started crying. God, I didn't cry like that before, And when I came out, I was just drained, but I felt it was a good drain. So I was able to complete my what I did the rest of Sunday. And so those ways in Alanon, and sometimes I go to AA meetings. I was talking to my sponsor about a month ago, and I went to a meeting with my daughter. One of those days she was willing to go, so I went with her, and I was sitting there and I was listening to all these guys talking. I was like, boy, these guys sound like little babies, Wah, 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 I said, oh my God, there's solutions, Jeannie. I said, what's wrong with them? And so she said, Bev, I don't think you're alcoholic if you feel that way, So I was like, oh, I know that solutions, to everything. It might not happen right away, if we pray about it. Here's another thing I learned in the AA. So going to Catholic boarding school, every time you turn around, do something wrong, you're a little heathen, You're going to go to hell. God's going to punish you. That's all we heard. So I knew that God was not a loving God. And then I went into those meetings I told you with coworkers, and I started hearing people talking about a loving God. So I was like, what the heck is this kind of, religion cult here or something, So the longer I stayed, reading the traditions, reading the steps, working them, and finding out that a loving God. So that's how I found God in my life, my higher power. Today I know that He is there, regardless of what we call Him, Tunkashila, Creator, whatever, we know that He is there because He always answers our prayers. And when COVID hit, all of a sudden things just shut down, no more. We didn't have Sundance for 2 years in a row. No inipis, no sweats, no more gatherings. And that really affected me. I'm a Catholic incidentally too, but I couldn't go to church either because they were Zooming anyway, So we did the Zoom thing, but it didn't feel right. No more gatherings, And I prayed. They would tell us to make hominy ties and pray with it. And so we did. And this past year was the first time I went back to Sundance. And it felt so good. So good to be out there. My daughter, who's pregnant right now, caught COVID. And I was so scared for her that during Sundance, we took her out to the middle, and all the leaders came and they prayed over her. And I know that works because I believe it. My little great-grandson there, when he was my granddaughter, my oldest granddaughter who was pregnant with him, was partying, using meth and all this, and then she discovered she was pregnant with him. And that following June at Sundance, we took her out to the middle of the tree there, and they prayed with her. And today, he's just drawn towards the culture, the inipis, the Sundancers, the Sundances. This year, he wanted to dance with me. So there I was, 2, 3 in the morning, making his skirt, Last minute, Jeez. I had a whole week to work on this, and jeez. And so he was out there dancing with me, And so I really believe in going to the tree and praying. So I know, if you will, keep my daughter in your prayers. She's expecting next month, and I know she'll have a healthy baby. She was vaccinated, even got the booster. So she didn't have quite the symptoms, the regular symptoms they all had. I caught COVID last year too, and I was down for a couple of days, and that was scary because you keep hearing about all these deaths. I kept praying and praying that I wouldn't be a part of that, and Creator helped, In our culture, every tribe, we all have our medicines, and I truly believe that that's what helped me. So I know that this way of life has really been good for me, Again, there's times things don't go our way, but it's not the end of the world. I mean, we can think that for a day or two like I do, cuss everybody out, road rage, you wouldn't believe. No. But then we calm down and, know that there's a solution for all these problems. And that's what I remind my grandkids, my children about. There's always a solution. So look for it. Instead, they would call me, oh, this is going on. And so I was like, well, do you have control over it? Well, no. Well, why are you belly aching about it? And that's the other thing, too. I just can't can't stand weepy people. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, you know. So, I mentioned relationships, and I got involved with an old boyfriend, from Wounded Knee days. Again, so I'm going to this meeting, that meeting. Pretty soon he's checking on me, It's like, what the heck, If I wanted to do something, I'll do it, So, it's off with you. And he had a hard time. Oh, geez, threatened me and everything, But it was like, so my daughter said, Mom, don't recycle old boyfriends. I will never go there again. And here he threw at me, he said, do you like men? I said, yeah, but not you, I'm sorry. So anyway, I believe my higher power, Alanon, has in my traditional ways of praying and participating in those rites. Today also we've got a lot of our tribes, we're talking about we're losing the language, right? So that move is on in Lakota land also. So there's a lot of us, and I've got a group going. It's called Revitalizing Our Lakota Language. And so we're trying all kinds of ways to to revitalize the language. And the number one thing is that it's got to be taught at home, And so, with my grandchildren, they know of some. And then as I got deeper into, being a part of this revitalizing, I focused on the great-grandkids. And so my little great-grandson can understand some of the language, and talk about it. He's going to dance tonight. And but that's what we have to do as grandparents, great-grandparents, is show our children that the language is really important and that we can't lose it, So with that spiel, but my life is okay today. I know that Creator is there every time. Every morning I get up, pray for all these people that I know who have COVID, cancer. We've lost so many great people to these diseases. Alcoholism, meth. Meth is so rampant, Unbelievable. And so one day, we know that it'll be there. It'll be there for our kids. So, ampetu kila washtet hunkashila daya dona omani piktek hena daya wichozani wichakwe hunkashila. So I pray for each and every one of you for our paths, the different paths we've come and we're going to go home to. It's so wonderful to be with a bunch of people from different tribes. That's what I like to see, Before I moved off the reservation, I thought it was just Oglala. I thought that was the only tribe. Then I went to school and learned there was over 500 recognized tribes. What? We're not the only ones here? But I love you all, and thank you for having me here.